Mr. Chairman, as I indicated earlier, today's proceeding will set the tone for the 114th Congress. The approach you are taking to advance H.R. 399, the so-called Secure the Borders First Act, a measure that could turn out to be one of the most significant pieces of legislation to emerge from this committee, this Congress, sets an unfortunate tone. You abandon our bipartisan partnership on border security in favor of a partisan approach, as evidenced by the fact that you introduced the bill on Thursday to coincide with its unveiling at the Republican member retreat. Then at 7:35 p.m. on Friday evening, you had the committee clerk circulate a notice that there would be a full committee markup of the measure today. I appreciate, Mr. Chairman, that there is an urge among Republicans to send a tough message to this president. After all, by now, reality has set in, and you have to come back to realize the futility of your efforts to roll back the president's executive actions on immigration through the appropriation process. Unfortunately, the approach taken here sends a message that satisfying the Republican urge trumps protecting the prerogatives of this committee and adhering to regular order. This approach put committee members, some of whom are new to the committee and to the Congress, in a terrible position of having to vote on a 72-page bill without the benefit of any legislative hearings or input by the subcommittee on border and maritime security. That said, let's talk about what's in your so-called tough border security bill. Like H.R. 1417, the legislation I co-authored with you last Congress, H.R. 399, directs the Department to put a plan in place to achieve, maintain, and measure operational control along the southwest border. However, that is pretty much where the similarities end. H.R. 399 includes pages of requirements seemingly pulled from thin air from the acquisition and deployment of technology in the border patrol sectors on the southwest border at a cost to American taxpayers of $10 billion. For example, your bill would require, among other things, subterranean surveillance and detection technologies and new maritime assets in San Diego, manned portable unmanned aerial vehicles, sensors, and lighter-than-air-ground surveillance in the Tucson sector, and tower-based surveillance, mobile vehicle surveillance technologies, and ultralight aircraft detection in Yuma. Mr. Chairman, it's evident that you did not consult with the Department in the development of this list. If you had, you would not have tied the Chief of the Border Patrol's hands when it comes to deciding which assets and technologies are most needed for each sector. Further, you probably would have avoided being so prescriptive as to force the government to buy technologies that turn out to be ineffective and obsolete. Goodness knows this committee has conducted oversight over more than a few failed border security technology projects that were once somebody's great idea. Given your past criticism, Mr. Chairman, of those who have thrown money and resources at securing the border, I'm surprised and disappointed that your bill takes this approach. H.R. 399 prescribes in painful detail fencing and road construction projects to be completed on an arbitrary timeline of 18 months. Unless there is a border supplemental appropriation in the works, I do not see how 64 infrastructure projects could be completed within that timeline. On the subject of timelines, experience with the federal acquisitions process has taught me that when there are expedited timelines in an acquisition, the cost of acquisition goes up, often significantly. $10 billion sounds like a lot of money, but I can tell you as someone who's done extensive oversight over the past decade of DHS past efforts to deploy border security technology, it will not be enough. In recent days, I've heard your bill characterized as everything from an empty green suit, a stalking horse, a Trojan horse for a larger immigration package, to a joke. To someone who's not read the bill, it's hard to know what to think about it. H.R. 399 certainly looks tough on the surface, as I'm sure was its intention. Sure, it holds the Secretary of Homeland Security responsible for achievement and maintaining operational control. However, when it comes to bring down the hammer for non-performance, as is likely to occur, given the unpredictability of appropriation and unrealistic standards for performance set in the bill, pretty much all that happens is that political appointees at the department will not get raises, bonuses, training, or be able to travel on government planes. Given the budgetary picture since sequester, bonuses and raises could not be out of reach for DHS workforce regardless of Mr. McCall's bill. And on the plus side of so-called travel penalty, the air carriers stand to realize increased revenue once DHS personnel begin exclusively flying commercial. I appreciate my Republican colleagues are not fans of the current president, but this measure actually does nothing to get tough with him or his administration. The pain that it would inflict for non-performance would not be felt by departmental political appointees for at least 2 years after enactment. Further singling out the hard-working DHS employees in this manner is not likely to foster the morale turnaround that previously you indicated you would like to work with me to help Secretary Johnson achieve at the department. Mr. Chairman, I met with Secretary Johnson and Commissioner Kurlowski. There is no doubt in my mind that they are committed to bolstering security on the southwest border. Under Secretary Johnson, an effort has been launched to more effectively coordinate the CBP assets and workforce on the southwest border with the assets and personnel of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, and the U.S. Coast Guard. Under the current administration, there is no question that the southwest border is getting significant attention. However, in discussions about border security, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that border security is not just security between the ports of entry in Texas and Arizona. Border security is also about protecting Americans on inbound flights from foreign lands, our maritime borders, our northern border, and our ports of entry. Given the diverse nature of the threats in our nation, we cannot afford to have tunnel vision when it comes to border security. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.